going to learn what secondary dominants are at the piano. And we're going to show you in the fastest, most practical manner possible so that you can start having fun with these at your piano or keyboard right away. If you're new here, my name is Jonathan Roberts, and here at the South Shore Piano School YouTube channel, we provide tutorials and lessons like this to take otherwise complex topics like secondary dominants and make them much more simple and practical so that you can have fun at the piano right away. So let's talk about secondary dominants. Let's start with a quick recap of just what a dominant chord is. In this case, we'll actually use the dominant 7th chord because I think that's much more common when you see them as secondary dominants. In any key you're in, like let's say we're in the key of C major, all white keys, the dominant 7th chord, or the 5-7 chord, is the 4-note chord we get if we stack that chord starting on the 5th note. So we have the 5th note of C major, that's G. I stack thirds, or I do skips until I have 4 notes. And that would be my dominant 7th chord. So we would call this a G dominant 7 chord, and we would say it's the dominant 7th chord of the key of C major. Another quick example, G major, if I stack a 4-note chord starting on the 5th, I get a D7 chord, also known as a D dominant 7th chord, which is the dominant 7th chord of the key of G major. Now let's talk about what a secondary dominant is. Going back to C major, remember each chord in that key has its own sort of tonality. So the 1 chord of C major, of course, is a C major chord. The 2 chord is D minor, the 3 chord's E minor, the 4 chord's F major, the 5 chord's G major, the 6 chord is A minor, and the 7 chord is B diminished. A secondary dominant chord is when you play the dominant not of our home key, C major, that would be that 5-7 we did earlier, but it would be the dominant 7th of one of these other keys. So it would be going to the 5-7 of D minor, it would be going to the 5-7 of E minor, the 5-7 of F major, the 5-7 of G major, or the 5-7 of A minor, and then it'll resolve quickly to that chord. I'll show you a simple example. Let's say we're in C major, we have our 1 chord, and let's say I want to do a secondary dominant of my 5 chord, so that's G major in the key of C major, and now we think to ourselves, okay, what would the dominant 7th chord of G major be? If we were temporarily in G major, what's the 5-7 chord? And that would be a D dominant 7th chord. But we would resolve that quickly to our G major chord, which is the 5 chord of C major. So when we label that, we would say that this is 5-7 of 5, resolving to 5, and then sometimes we might add something like a 7th like this to show that we're still in C major, and then resolve that to 1. So a quick recap there, we were in C major, I wanted to do a 5 of 5, so I thought temporarily in the key of G major, 5-7, just to show you in root position, resolving to 5, and then I decided to resolve to 1. Let's say I wanted to do the secondary dominant of my 6th chord. So in C major, that would be my A minor chord. Once again, I have to think temporarily in the key of A minor. What's the 5-7 chord? In this case, that would be an E dominant 7 chord. But again, that would have to quickly resolve to A minor. So it's almost like for 1 chord, we're not really in the key, but then we're resolving to a chord that is in the key. I'll try adding some inversions to make that sound a little cooler. So that might be, say, a 1 chord in C major. I go to my 5 of 6, that's my E dominant 7 chord, resolving to 6, that's my A minor. And then I could do something like a 2-5-1. So you see, I temporarily tonicized that 6th chord using that secondary dominant, and then I carried on in the key I was in. I'll show you another example. Let's say we want to tonicize the 2 chord. So in C major, that would be D minor. Temporarily think in D minor. What's the 5 chord? That would be A dominant 7. That would resolve to the 2, and then I can carry on in my key. Showing you that in root position, that would be A dominant 7 chord, resolving to 2. But to make it sound a lot cooler, we might be in C, go to A dominant 7, then to 2-5-1. Now the 1 chord you cannot have a secondary dominant for in a major key is actually the 7 chord, so there's no such thing as a 5-7 of 7, and that's because that is a diminished chord. With all these other chords, they have their own key in our tonal system, but in this case there's no such thing as the key of B diminished. And there's also something about the stability of the other chords being major or minor that makes this whole secondary dominant thing work so well. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and if you enjoyed this, be sure to subscribe so that you can receive more of our content just like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.